A very warm welcome to you, Mr. Sareen. Mr. Sareen, you heard what Abhishek had to say. He's made a very valid point. He's also quoted what the External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, has to say, that, relations cannot just go back to normalcy till there's normalcy at the LAC. And having said that, talking about the possibility of a bilateral between India and China, don't you think it's fairly nascent right now? Because at the same time, we've also seen the spy ship docking at Hambantota port in Sri Lanka. Can one really go by the recent disengagement? Is that enough?
I don't think it's enough. And I think one indication that that's not enough is apparent from the fact that there is as yet no indication whether there will be any meeting between the Indian Prime Minister and the Chinese President. And if all that this disengagement was to have some kind of a pull aside or exchange of pleasantries you can exchange with anybody. Frankly, I think Abhishek is slightly guilty of indulging in a bit of hyperbole on the whole world is waiting to watch whether India and Pakistan re-engage. Who gives a damn about Pakistan anyways? What does it bring to the table? What is the incentive for India to engage with the Pakistanis anyways? Right. So I think, apart from that, on the Chinese thing, I think the problems are far more deep-seated. And unfortunately, and I must have to say this, that, while we are saying that relations can never go back to normal, if we look at just simply the trade relationship, that's actually the bilateral trade has actually increased over the last 2 years. So what exactly are we saying? Are we saying that, okay, we are not going to give some visas to some Chinese, the Chinese are not going to give our guys visas? Is that how we define normalcy? So I fail to understand how, while we keep saying this, and I agree that that should be in principle the position, but in practice, I think the relationship pretty much, the day-to-day relationship pretty much remains on the tracks. It hasn't been affected. The Chinese continue to dump their rubbish in India. The Indians continue to buy their rubbish from China. There has been no real decoupling of the economy. So I don't know what exactly we mean by there can be no normalization. If by normalization we mean that there can be no summit meetings, fat lot of good is doing to us, even when we were having summit meetings. The Chinese were as aggressive as they are right now. And the pullback itself has led to a lot of questions being asked. So I think, I don't see, I'm not very sanguine about the relationship between India and China going back to normalcy. And on India and Pakistan front, in any case, I don't think anybody is waiting with bated breath. After all, what is the point of talking to Shahbaz Sharif? Look, there was a time when, we said that there's no point talking to a prime minister, it's rather talk to the army because the army calls the shots. Today, even the army chief, I think is ineffective. And nobody takes the Pakistan army seriously anymore. Not even Pakistanis are taking it seriously anymore. Look at the way Imran Khan is making a monkey out of the army chief. You have a prime minister who doesn't know whether he will still be prime minister 2 weeks from now because there are so many speculations in Pakistan, so much of uncertainty. You don't know whether this guy is going to stay in office 2 weeks from now, 1 month from now. Will he be there till the next year? What happens after next year? If anything he promises in a bilateral, will it be worth anything at all? Or will it just be a piece of, waste paper which you throw into the rubbish bin again?
In fact, it is India's clout which is far more, as far as India's clout is concerned, it is one to reckon with compared to Pakistan, which has in fact faced some catastrophic floods, and they are a nation which is in time of need right now and not India. Having said that, Ambassador Trigunayat, would you like to add to those thoughts that have been shared by Mr. Sarif?
Well, Akanksha, I think that neighbors are the gift of geography and the pains of history. So you need to learn to manage that pain. And there are no permanent enemies or permanent friends. There are only permanent interests. And as Sushant very correctly said, that irrespective of the bilateral talks or discussions, broadly the relationship has been moving on in economic domain. Political contacts have been far and few between. We saw that Wang Yi had come here in March before the BRICS summit. So
Right.
we have been meeting together, maybe virtually, not saying ni hao and namaste. That's a different thing. That might happen this time. But bilateral summit, of course, is not going to give you much, except perhaps expedite the little normalization on the border. But then the border is a long problem that needs to be solved, and it needs to be resolved through a consistent this thing. Today, of course, as I said, that Xi Jinping has his own lot of domestic problems. And so for him, this platform provides a flagging of his views and continued continuity at the helm of affairs in China. In what shape and form, that remains to be seen. At the same time, for India, it is extremely important because we will be heading the SCO summit next year. Whosoever is the Prime Minister of Pakistan will be invited, might even come. So you don't know what happens between today and tomorrow. At the same time, with Pakistan today talking, we get nothing.